All right, teammates, we are back. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the show. Welcome to the #1 show on innovative teamwork. And you are in for a treat if this is your first time listening, because I have my first guest who is in Bali. All right, who is in Bali right now. To my regular listeners, you already know this is the first time I'm actually interviewing someone who is currently located in Bali. Her name is Victoria Mensch. She runs a company called Silicon Valley Executive Academy, and we are in for an absolute treat because, again, I'm probably would be more of a client, or sort of can speak from experience. I have burnt myself out in quite a few situations. I've been the one that's constantly working, constantly doing things. I mean, I've gone 12, 14, 16-hour days of just nonstop. And it is hard for me to find balance and, constantly go through burnout. And she speaks to all of that. She has a concept that speaks to all of that. Is going to help you when it comes to actual practical things. So before I make the intro too long, Victoria, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thank you very much for having me, Aswant. Very happy to be here.
So this doesn't, and this is what I want to kind of make clear. This doesn't happen overnight. For you to develop the concept and develop the lifestyle and develop a way in which you are teaching people how not to burn out in their jobs, how not to get too overwhelmed, you yourself had to be in a situation where you were burnt out, where you were going through it, and it had to sting. And I was just looking through your LinkedIn account. You have quite an extensive background when it comes to the careers and your work experience. So I'll give you the microphone for a little bit to kind of talk a little bit about your background, and then kind of talk to people about how you came from that place to where you are now. So the floor is yours.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. So most of my career, and if you look at my LinkedIn, most of my career I actually spent in the high-tech industry in different roles, mostly in product marketing. But I started as a psychologist. So that was my passion. Speaking of passion and burnout. So that was my passion. I wanted to study psychology. I was very interested in helping people, counseling, things like that. So I got all my degrees, including my Ph.D. in psychology. And I actually started working with people. And that quickly, now I know, I didn't know then, now I know that it quickly actually ended in a burnout. So that's just a point that we can.
I want to pause you there real quick, because when you talk about wanting to help people, how much of it, like when you're talking about burnout, how much of it do you attribute to kind of this disease to please, or just constantly trying to help people and being taken advantage of, things like that? Did you see any of that as you were going through it, and people taking advantage of your willingness to help people?
Well, there's a little bit of that, but if you look at the burnout in general, actually, it's very interesting that it started as a concept, right? So burnout is a fairly new concept. It's widespread, even from the knowledge perspective, which is fantastic because we have a label to attach to our condition. Otherwise, you don't know what's going on, so you're not looking for the right solution.
Right.
Right. So burnout as a concept was really born out of that service industry, and there was a researcher who was working with medical professionals, with doctors, with nurses in emergency rooms, and that's how he kind of identified this as a condition. I would say it's not, but as a package of symptoms, right?
Right.
And that's what we actually see, that people who are in service professions, they have a tendency to burn out faster. Right. And the reason for that is that I think is, yes, because you want to help, right? So you're driven by that passion, but you're not proficient enough. You don't understand, you don't notice, you're not setting the boundaries around you. So there's just way too much outgoing energy. And you don't have the tools to replenish your energy. So that's how kind of I came to understand this in my practice. I think that helps to do that. It's not necessarily that somebody's taking advantage of that, but there's definitely a lot of effort, right, and a lot of intent that comes with the service industry, because you're always giving,
That makes
right?
sense.
But
Yeah, that
you
makes
you
sense.
have not necessarily learned how to receive or how to replenish.
Right.
And there are obviously some external factors, like with doctors, for example. To this day, I have some
Yeah, that
clients
makes
who
a lot
are
of
in
sense.
that
I never thought about it like that. I really haven't.
right.
I didn't think about it in
Mhm.
terms of you being in that industry where you're servicing people. You can get so wrapped up in the service. You can get so wrapped up in actually performing what it is you like helping people. You like making people feel better. I'm sure back when you were, serving your clients as a psychologist, you loved the results you were getting from them. You loved actually seeing what was happening. And you're right, it does. I never even thought about how that leads to burnout. And I'm glad you kind of clarified that for me. So you get your
Right. Because
psychologist. Good.
yeah, because there's this myth out there is that if you follow your passion, and a lot of people go into service professions out of passion, there's this myth out there, if you follow your passion, everything else falls into place. No, you still have to take care of yourself, right? You still have to
Gotcha.
establish the control inside you, and you have to put them inside you so that you can actually craft the way to practice, that replenishing and taking care of yourself and well-being practice,
Yeah.
so that you avoid those pitfalls of things like burnout.
Right. Okay, so you're a psychologist, you're going from job to job, you have careers and things like that. So what, walk us through like all of the sort of the things that took you to your tipping point to say, look, I got to do
Right.
something or else I'm going to lose it. My head's gonna explode.
Right. And this is not a one thing, right? So when I look back at my career, this has actually happened quite regularly. So at some point, you pivot yourself and set yourself up into kind of something that's more interesting, maybe more again, replenishing, more energetically interesting, right? Or you set yourself a different goal, and then in in some time, in some period of time, you go back to the same cycle. That's what happened to me. So I went through several cycles of those, pivoting my careers, kind of charting different courses. And sometimes when I look back, it's like a lot of it is like I say, okay, now I don't feel great, right? So I don't feel motivated. I feel exhausted all the time. So it must be a career. So it must be a company. It must be a job. It must be something else. Let's change that. So, and sometimes that's the answer. The answer is that you are not in the right place. This is something that
Right.
doesn't fit you. But most of the times, I work, for example, with people with high achievers who are in the right place. It's just you put that significance outside of you, not inside of you. And
Right.
once we go through kind of building that practice of internal practice of placing control inside you, taking control over from those external circumstances, in a lot of cases, you don't even need to change a job, right? So it's just
Right.
you need to make the changes to create the life that suits you. You don't need to make dramatic changes. But a lot of people, they come in, I was one of those as well. You come to a point of desperation. It's like, I can't take one more day of that.
Right.
If I go to if I go this work to go, if I go and see these people, if I go to do this
Right.
work one more day, right? So I just cannot take it anymore, and you kind of take yourself out. And that's not a very productive situation, because the problem is not necessarily outside, right? So their internal controls, their internal practices, your internal state of mind that you can change, that will allow you to stay in that external circumstance and find ways to be productive and harmonious in those circumstances.
So
Does
what
that make
role?
sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, and it brings me to another question that I actually have for you: is what role do you advise people, or what advice do you give a person whose problem is people? Okay, the people. Now, there's nothing necessarily, like you said, wrong with the job that they have, or there's nothing necessarily that they're doing specifically that they don't like doing, but it's the people that create this burnout. They get taken, like, I don't want to use the word taken advantage of, but they're so good, and the people around them are stressing them out. Whether it's a family situation, plus a work situation, and then they go crazy. So I'll give you an example. I'm a teacher, right? And I work with a lot of kids and a lot of families, a lot of broken home situations, a lot of situations where, look, they can't afford to take a day or 2 days off work, or they're out there evicted, they're going to be living on the street. And there's a situation where the one teacher that I'm thinking about now, she had both of her kids at the school, but she was by herself. She was a single mom and she was trying to work things out. And this school was asking her to cook the meals, drive the buses, watch the kids from, newborns all the way to big kids. Whenever there was a problem, she had to deal with it. Whenever there's a newcomer, she got to sign this person up. And because she was the one who was also speak Spanish, if there's somebody that comes in and they don't speak English, okay, she has to be the one to translate. And over time, that burns a person out. And she ended up leaving the job for something else. Like, what do you advise do you give people who are in those situations that they're not making a ton of money, they're not, with the high achievers that you deal with, but the people around them are stressing them the fuck out, like they don't know what to do? How do you talk to those folks?
Yeah. So, and obviously, right. So I'm not saying that everything is rosy around, that there are no changes that needs to be done, in the external. And sometimes, when I talk about burnout and other people talk about burnout, it seems like, oh, it's your fault. No, it's not your fault. It's nobody's fault. And there's obviously would be great if that environment that she was in could actually take better care of her. It would be great if she wasn't under that pressure. But this is not what she can change from where she is. The only thing from the external circumstances she can change is to leave, which she, obviously did, right? But what we're talking about, what you could do, what can you do when you are in that? What can you do
In the mud of it,
to
right.
protect yourself, right? So what can you do to protect yourself and to create a better circumstance and better state of mind for yourself in that environment, right? And I kind of, before I go too far that way, I want to say that once you make those changes, the chances are the circumstances around you will change as well. So people are mirroring the changes that you make. So in this particular case, not knowing anything, I'm just, we're hypothesizing
based on what I said,
right? There's obviously a lot of pressures that are coming at her, and she's not saying no to anything, right?
Exactly.
And that's the road to burnout, when you don't have those boundaries, when you're not when you don't know how to set those boundaries. And when it comes there is that I a lot of times people don't even know how to construct that, right? So what is it that she can take and what is it that she cannot take? So that's something that needs to be articulated for her. What is that important for me? If I don't have time to spend 5 minutes with my kid, that's a non-negotiable for me, right? So this is the work, the internal work that needs to happen for her. So what is it that not negotiable? Well, that's the first step, right? And then you negotiate for that. So I need to have this, and that. And the other thing is that that's a lot of people who went into that rabbit hole, is that they start attaching kind of significance to how much time they spend at work, how many things they do, not necessarily to the value that they bring. So that's another kind of contemplation point as well. What is it? Where is the greatest value that I bring into this process? And you actually value yourself based on that value, on that contribution that you give in there. So for example, if she is the Spanish speaker, and again, I'm just hypothesizing, if she's a Spanish speaker, that's a unique skill, right? In that particular environment. She said, well, I'm a Spanish speaker. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to do everything that relates to that because only I can do that, right? And I can do it easily as well. That's my value. But probably at the same time, I cannot cook because at that time I'm translating to someone, or I'm doing something, communicating with something, or creating something in Spanish, things like that, right? So for herself, she needs to kind of sit back and say, well, which are the things that I absolutely hate and all those requirements that are coming at me, and I cannot do them. So how do I clear that? And then you actually start implementing this.
Yes.
And you create that in terms of, and you communicate that in terms of the values. Like, I'm a great teacher, so my best contribution is when I spend time with the kids teaching, right? Because that's where everybody gets the greatest value. If I am cooking, I'm not teaching, and there are probably other people who cook better and they cost less, right? So things like that. And people, I have to tell you that from the, and you probably know that as well, from a management perspective,
Yes.
that helps a lot when somebody comes to you and says, I absolutely love doing that. I want to do more of that. And I absolutely hate doing that. And we can do that better and more efficient with someone else. As a manager, you really appreciate that as well. So
Yeah.
you don't have to take it as a kind of a victim of circumstance. There is a proactive position there to take. And I know it's difficult when there's so much pressures, financial pressures, family pressures, what have you. There's still an opportunity to be proactive there, to envision what it is that you want to have, and go step by step and negotiate that with yourself and with people around you. Does
Yes.
that make
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And it makes it, well, first of all, there's a couple things I got to make sure I emphasize to the listeners is you have so much power within yourself to heal yourself. You have so much power, so many things that you can be doing. And the power of just saying no to certain things, that all starts with you and what's in your heart and how much confidence you actually have. And saying that actually makes me want to kind of discuss another topic with you because a lot of people don't know these resources exist. So when you say, at what value they bring, and when you bring up the term value, the next phrase is money. What relationship do you see money and value being? How do you navigate the waters of, okay, I bring this amount of value, so I deserve this amount of money? How do you teach people to manage the relationship or the concept between value and money? Because that's where I see it can get really, really confusing for a lot of people because they know they bring value, but then how much is that actually worth? But someone who speaks Spanish, that's a very valuable skill, and you need to be getting paid something for that, and all that stuff can get fairly confusing.
Right, right. Well, it is a touchy point. It is
Yeah.
a touchy point, of course. But in terms of value, right? So that's when it actually you have to be able to articulate that value in the
Mhm.
negotiations, salary negotiations, especially.
Mhm.
The skill to have is to be able to articulate that value, to identify that value,
Mhm.
articulate that value.
Right.
So sometimes it helps actually to look at yourself, because a lot of people kind of dreaming to becoming entrepreneurs, right?
Mhm.
But you are already an entrepreneur. Even if you have a salary and you work for someone, you can actually get into those shoes and say, well, I am a business of me, right? So I am a project of me. I'm a
Right.
product of me. So that's what I'm selling, in a sense. So how do I sell that, right? And
Mhm.
you're selling your skills, your education, whatever. You're selling your value. So how do you sell that? It actually helps sometimes to put yourself in those shoes. Like, if I were a solopreneur,
Mhm.
um, let's say, um, if I'm a product manager, solopreneur,
Mhm.
right? So how would I sell that as a product?
Right.
Um, it's a little bit, the terms are a little bit inhumane, but that's
Yeah.
how you think about the values. So what is it that I create? What kind of value I create? How I can articulate that value? Because
Mhm.
that's what you're paid for. Sometimes the value could be that I take the burden off a manager if you are an administrative assistant, right? So I created, so I took on so many little things, or a virtual assistant, for example. I took on so
Mhm.
many different things. I freed up so much time for you to create value. So that's my value, that
Mhm.
I took that headache off of you, and you put an amount on that, right? So because
Yeah.
I took whatever I took on myself, I freed
Mhm.
10 hours a week,
Yeah.
right? So it brought you a value, whatever the hourly rate you attach to your manager, what have you. So that's the value that I brought to you. So why don't I have a fraction of that value to me? So
Exactly.
that's how you think about it. So in the business world, you do want to to get it down to more or less, was it quantifying, to quantities, right? It's
Specific
some sort of
number, right?
quantity. Yes.
It's something you deserve, and it's it is very, like you said, it is a very touchy subject because you want to be humble, and especially when you're young, you just want to get a job, and maybe $30,000 sounds like a lot of money when you just graduating college, but it's really not a huge. You got to continue to build and build, and the importance of investing in your own skills, investing in your public speaking skills, investing in your skills to articulate what you deserve, all that stuff is very, and I love how you say everyone is actually an entrepreneur if they choose to be. If you choose to go out and articulate your story in a certain way and really show up in the workplace and say, hey, I deserve this because of what I can do, what I can bring. But you got to be confident in it, because if you're not confident in it, if you don't believe in it in your own self, no one else is going to believe in you. You got to do the work. And that leads me to another question actually for you is, you work with a lot of high achievers. You work with a lot of people that I'm sure have a great deal of confidence. What is the sort of a common theme that you see amongst them? If there are any listeners in here that are, or anyone listening in that is aspiring to become a high achiever, what's something that you see in the majority of them that's making it so they become high achievers and are able to bring their value to the work? Or maybe it's even something that you're helping them figure out.
Yeah, so there's so many things. It's not just one thing, but just to
Mhm.
continue our conversation from a previous theme,
Yeah.
right? So when you look at you as an entrepreneur, even if you are a W-2 employee, right? If you
Yes.
look at if you look at yourself still, like I'm in the business of me, right? So you actually start acting differently. So what you're building is you're building your career, right? So how do I build my career? Well, through service, through contributing that value. What value can I bring? Not like, well,
Mhm.
I show up at work and I sit 9 to 5, right? They told me to do this and I did that and I left. It's
Exactly.
very
Shit,
difficult.
come on now, take it. I love it. Yes, thank you. Somebody needs
It's
to hear that. Somebody needs to hear
Yeah, so you
that.
have a job, right? And you're
Yeah,
probably good. Whatever they told you to do, you did that. You probably did it well.
right.
But that's not going to bring you an edge, right? So what high achievers, they're always striving for that. They're always striving for that. What's next? What else can I do, right? And then from there, you can actually create more value. You can demand more value for yourself, because that's what businesses do as well, right? So
Mhm.
how does business make money? Business creates value and keeps fraction of that value. Businesses create new value for other people and they keep the fraction of that. So that's what you do. It's like, look at yourself as a business. Even if you're an employee, it's like, I create value, I create my career, my business is my career, right? So what
Mhm.
does it, so what else can I do? But don't just do it and leave it out there, right? So articulate that,
Yeah.
do it purposefully, articulate that, build the relationship around you
Mhm.
and kind of make those step-by-step things. The only thing I want to add to that, to
Yeah,
bring it back to the burnout topic, is that this is if you just go, if you just single-mindedly just go career, 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 next achievement, you have to understand why you need that for yourself, right? So if it's just, oh, I want to get a bigger car, a bigger house, I want to put this check mark on my resume, so on and so forth. That's the road to burnout as well. That's the road to like, oh, okay, now I have everything and I
Mhm.
have nothing.
Yeah.
So you
Because it's
have to
always going to be a
understand
bigger house,
why.
always going to be a nicer car, it's always going to be there. Mhm.
Right. And you actually think that, oh, well, I don't feel well now. I don't like what I'm doing now. But once I have that money, I have that big car, I'll be happy. And that's the biggest myth among high achievers. So I just want
Yeah.
to, a word of caution. That's the biggest myth, actually,
Mhm.
that once we achieve something, that's myth that's really proliferated throughout our society, that once I achieve that, then I'll be happy. And then you're happy for 1 minute. And then it's like, oh, what's next? Once I achieve that, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
So the biggest insight, from that perspective is that it turns out the relationship is totally different.
Mhm.
You actually, happy people are more successful. That's
Yeah.
an interesting point. And then happiness is really a practice. So when you're kind of thinking about that career, and you as a business as a career, took that and take that into account as well, kind of a bigger context of that. Why am I doing that? And why I'm doing that, and while I'm doing that, I actually need to enjoy the journey as well, not just go ahead and kill for destination.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because you're right. We are socialized every single day, as from young people, to chase the bigger house, to chase the fancier car, to chase the girl or the significant other, chase the friends, do all the clout chasing there is. It's hard. It's almost unrealistic now to think that kids are not gonna go down that route, but it's us as adults. It's our responsibility to teach them, or to kind of bring them back and derail them from going down that road. Actually, I remember my dad going on tangents growing up, like, life isn't about, the rappers, life isn't about the car, like just all that kind of stuff. So I think it's important that us as adults make sure we do our part in railing these kids back in, especially with the advancements of technology and social media and all that. And the reason I'm bringing all of that up is because you actually do have tactical, practical advice for people, whether, I believe it's like a 20-minute journaling, or there were some things that you were mentioning when I was listening to before we started recording.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to share now about just what are some of the tactical things that people can do to keep themselves from falling down that path, that lane, and
Right.
they're just chasing the material stuff.
Right. So there are a few things that we usually do. It's amazing how simple the steps are. What is it? Simple, but not easy, right?
Yeah, that's a key point too. Because the everyone simple, they think it's easy. No, simple but not easy. Nothing in life is worth having. It's gonna come easy, okay?
Right. So when I talk about burnout, I like to talk about two levels of kind of burnout prevention. And the first level is really just stress management techniques. And a lot of materials, if you look at the burnout, a lot of people are talking about that. They really kind of stay on that level of stress management. What is that? When we get overwhelmed, right? So what is burnout? The red thread in the burnout is that you feel exhausted. It's really fatigue, like a chronic fatigue. You feel exhausted. You can't really, no matter how much you sleep or don't sleep. That's kind of the biggest symptom. Then there are other symptoms that could show up individually for different people. It could be lack of motivation. It could be, changes in behavioral patterns like digestion, you loss of appetite, or the other way, like you eat a lot, right? So lots of different things, lots of different symptoms that are stress related, that our systems are in the survival mode. We're totally, constantly, chronically in the survival mode. And that cycle never completes, right? So that's what stress is. It's a great, fantastic reaction. We have to be grateful for that. That's why we survived for so long. But now we're attaching that stress reaction to so many different things that are not related to survival.
Right.
So we have to learn how to get out of that survival mode into thriving mode, how to get out of fight or flight mode into rest and digest mode. So, and those are kind of techniques that help to regulate that conscious system, right? This is breathing techniques. When you're overwhelmed, right? When there is this a wave of, it could be anxiety, it could be anger, it could be what have you, right? So we have this emotional wave. It's important to know that you have to breathe, right? Because that actually changes breathing patterns. So in order to get your system into the right place, you can breathe. And there's so many breathing techniques. I usually like to do a very simple one. I call it box breathing. So you inhale on 4 or 6, whatever, you count to 6, you inhale, you hold for 6, then you exhale for 6, and you hold for 6. And what it does, it sends the signal to our survival mechanism that the thread has passed. Right? So you can breathe normally, so you can act, out of your mind, not out of your survival reaction. So that breathing techniques, activity, movement. It does not have to be elaborate, marathon running. It can be very simple, brisk walk. It could be stretching, it could be clench and relax your muscles. So these are stress management techniques that I believe everybody in our day and age, everybody must master. Like you have to have a number of those tools at your disposal at every moment so that you can regulate in the moment.
Right.
So that's very important.
Yeah, and it's also important to mention too that and this is what I've learned too, because I'm familiar with a lot of the things that you're talking about, is just doing what you said. You get conscious of your breaths. Okay, when something is highly stressful and you're very emotional, if you just were to breathe, like, and this is something I actually employ with the kids as well. I teach and I tell them, breathe, get conscious of
Right.
your breath. It'll be amazing how actually valuable that is to you. Just be conscious. You're alive.
Mhm.
Okay, breathe, breathe,
Right,
take it to the
exactly.
next step, and then you're gonna go. Because so many times we get wrapped up in these things, we start lashing out, we start going good. Get conscious, know that you're alive, know that you're breathing, and then make your decisions. Don't try to make your decisions when you're so hopped up on the anxiety of the moment. That's very key.
Right. Right. So these are the tools that I believe everybody, because our world is becoming only more stressful, right? So there's
Yeah.
more and more coming at us, and more things that our brains,
Yeah.
our reptilian brains are keep assigning,
Right.
keep assigning threats to things that are not really threat to survival, but that's how we work, This
Exactly.
is, that's who we are.
Mhm.
But at the same time, we're also kind of, highly evolved humans. So,
Mhm.
so we should be able to regulate that. And those are, I call them first aid techniques, stress management techniques. But they are in the longer run, they're kind of like a band-aid. So if you cut your finger, you put a band-aid on, it doesn't mean that you healed the finger, the scratch. You just help in the moment. So that's what those stress management techniques are. But now we're kind of going to, how do I make those changes sustainable? How do I actually create that harmony, or that well-being sustainably? What are the tools for that? And those are the tools when you learn to control your mindset, you learn to react consciously with awareness, right? Not just not the react, but act. Actually, you get out of the reaction mode into creation mode. And for
Mhm.
those, there are practices that we do. The first one that we usually start with, that was a game changer for me when I learned that practice and I started doing that. It's a practice of self-care. And there is a fundamentally what it means.
Mhm.
There's lots of out there about self-care as well, but what it means is that there's so many things that are outside of your control, but self-care is entirely in your control. So a lot of people in the burnout, especially high achievers, one of the another red thread is that I don't control my life anymore. It's like I feel that I am constantly bombarded by other people's wishes and demands, that I'm not in control anymore. So that's how you bring control back, right? So what is self-care? The simple practice to do that, and I encourage everyone to do
Mhm.
that, is put together a list of 20 things that you like to do.
Mhm.
Not because somebody wants you to, not because it's useful, not because it brings you return on investment,
Mhm.
not because of that, right? Only because this thing bring you joy. So
Yeah.
you do things, you put together a list of things that bring you joy. So what
Mhm.
I keep talking about is that when I did this exercise for the first time, it took me 10 days to complete.
Yeah.
I
I'm
stopped
yeah,
at
I've heard
number
you say
three.
that.
Yeah, so I
Right.
stopped at number three. It's like I don't know anymore. I
Mhm.
forgot what
Yeah.
brings me joy, right? So you're just following kind of the demands of everyone else, of the careers, of the
Wrapped up in that, right? Right. Mhm.
exactly the ideas that you think how it should be, and so on and so forth, that you don't remember anymore. What is it that brings you joy? But joy has value.
Mhm.
Speaking of value, now I can articulate that value, and that
Yeah.
value is really in that energy, right? So I'm replenishing my energy
Mhm.
this way. I gave myself permission to prioritize joy, my needs, what I want, what I need. And it could be little things. It started with really little things. Like I just want to have 5 minutes in the morning to make myself coffee and sit on the terrace and drink that coffee while nobody else is around, right? And you actually do that. You put this in your calendar. You do 3 of those things every day. You put them in the calendar. That's the work that you do. Simple, simple, easy. It has to be, but it's not. But you do that and you notice. So what I noticed for myself, for example, a week later, first of all, immediately the world just became a better place.
Yeah.
I started noticing, the colors of the flowers, the clouds in the sky. Out of little things. I really, at first I took like 15 minutes out of my day, 5 minutes 3 times a day, just to do things just for the sake of them. And then you expand from there. And what you notice that you have more time and you have more energy to do all other things that you thought were unattainable, unachievable, that you didn't have time for them. Basically prioritize yourself. You give yourself permission, say, this is important. How I feel, what I do, the joy for me is important. And you do that. So that's the first step. It brings miracle. For some people, it's easy. For some people, it's not that easy, but you do that practice. The second one that we go to is the gratitude ritual. And there are different ways how you can do that. But again, what does it do? When we say gratitude, everybody says gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. But at the end of the day, what it is that you train yourself to notice things that you like instead of things that you don't like. So we tend to go into complaining cycle. You go to any coffee machine in the office, and all you hear is like, oh, this is not right. This is not right. This is not right. There's so many things in the
Everything
world
good happens. Like with anything good, I'm telling you. I have
and
similar colleagues like that. Like every time they're in that coffee, it's a constant. And, one of the things I actually do enjoy, to kind of a funny story to your point, is I was telling someone the other day, you know what I love? I love watching the coffee fall into the pot. I just love that. I just love it. Like it's like a fish tank for me. When your day's officially about to start, just watching it go from nothing in the pot to it now. Like just the whole way the coffee goes in. There's something absolutely magnificent to me about watching that. It relaxes me for some reason. And I was telling a fellow colleague of mine that the other day. But of course, you get that crew of people that'll come in and just constantly could ruin my serenity with their bullshit. And so I definitely understand what you're saying. So, but anyway, you were going on the gratitude part,
right? And it's also a skill. It is a skill that you can train in yourself. When you're complaining, you can notice that at some point you actually notice that when you're complaining, you're draining yourself, right? So you're in this negativity, like everything is going from bad to worse.
Yeah.
And when you're actively looking for things to be grateful about, to express that gratitude to others as well. So for example, it could be in the professional environment or in the family environment. There's so many things in the family, right, that people don't do to your liking. Like somebody did not wash dishes, or somebody did not, take out the trash.
Toilet
It's like,
seat up. I grew up with an older sister, so I mean, they're leaving the toilet seat up, and I was one of the most annoying little brothers you would have met. Like I would take the hot and cold. We shared a bathroom, so I would take the hot and mix it with cold, and she'd be in the bathroom trying to turn on the hot water and wonder why. So I was one of those.
right. Like, well, this person never cleans, never puts the dishes into sink or whatever, the dishes to a dishwasher. But then what does it do, right? What does that person actually do, right? So maybe he or she did not put a dish into a dishwasher, but she took it from the table to the sink or something. So be grateful for that.
Yeah, something.
Same with the
Find
colleagues.
something, right. Because the ladder, you're right, the ladder is going to drain you. If you complain about that, and again, like she said, this is not easy stuff. It's simple, but it's not easy because you're in the heat of battle. You're like, I can't stand when they do that, but thank you for putting just find something. And this is work, guys. This is not
it's a skill. It's a skill.
skill. You gotta work at this skill.
So what's important is that it's a skill. So the important part here is that because it's a skill, it's totally in your power to master it. And what's happening, it's miracles are going to happen. So once you are in that state of gratitude, so you put yourself in there, it's like, I am going to master this skill. So I'm going to find ways to be grateful for that person, that annoying colleague, I'll find a way to say thank you for something. Don't make it up, right? So find something genuine, authentic to thank that person. And what you will notice that you actually create that ripple effect. People around you, they'll catch up and they'll start thanking you back. So this is the most amazing part that I noticed, and that's how we create change. So yes, it is an internal change. I changed it for myself. I made a decision to be in that gratitude, to master this skill. But that's how I impact environment around me. So now people are actually responding with gratitude. I get so many thanks for so many things. It is my work now is really to notice that. It's like, oh wow, there's so much gratitude around me. Not only I am seeing that, but I'm also creating that in people around me, which is a fantastic place to be, actually.
It is. It is.
And
It is.
yes, you can start with little thing. I don't know. I opened my eyes today. It is a miracle, actually. Speaking of the complexity of human bodies and all the processes that are happening, the fact that you open your eyes and you can see and you can move. I mean, it is a miracle. It might be a stretch for people to actually be grateful for that, but there's things that, well, I have a food on my table, right? Or somebody I don't know, today it's a sunny day today. There are
or even
things
a
to be grateful
sunrise. I'll tell you what, for me, just seeing a sunrise, and I'm in Florida, so but seeing a sunrise, man, you have never gonna see a bad looking sunrise. You see that, your world is like, look, it's official. This can be your day to do whatever it is you want to do. You don't have control over if you get a next one. So seeing one always puts me in a state of gratitude, no matter what. Like how bad the previous night was, I see a sunrise. It's unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. So
right. And just you could probably talk about how it makes you feel and how much energy it gives you to actually be productive after that, right? So
exactly.
speaking of bringing it back to your to your corporate world, to your environment, to your relationship, you show up at a totally different in a totally different state that actually is very contagious. So you start feeling, you start being surrounded by people who are in the same state. So that's how you create
the energy matches. Your energy
life
matches.
you love,
Positive
right?
attract positive. It's so important, guys. And I do want to be very respectful of your time, and I want to make sure we talk a little bit about. I believe you have like a retreat coming up, or there's some things going on.
Yes.
So feel free to talk about what's next. And
right. Well, thank you so much. Yes. So so a lot of people, we were talking about burnout. There's actually another term that somebody came up with recently. It's called what is it? Languishing. So yeah, you could be in burnout. It's a very it's a very heavy state, but a lot of people are actually neither here nor there. So a lot of people are languishing. So it's like my life is like I don't know. So we actually created a retreat that is going to happen in Bali at the end of October 20th, for those who kind of feel that they want to go to that next stage, right? So they want to rejuvenate, reignite that passion. So you're not languishing, you're not in burnout, but you're actually full of energy and kind of that renewed purpose and passion to go to the next stage, to create the life you love and live the life you love. So and we go through, because it's in Bali, it's a totally magical place. The place itself will give you like 20% edge over any other
I'm
programs.
looking at your views right now. It looks amazing.
Any other programs out there. And Bali has a very deep tradition, actually, culture of living in harmony with yourself, with the society, and with the nature. So it's a fantastic place. But there's also different masters and different practices that we're going to do. The gratitude practice, the the self-care practice. There's a holistic health component to that. So everything for you to dedicate like 5 days of your life to you, to prioritize you, to really set that stage, to go further,
Yeah.
to reset your kind of compass for another 5-10 years.
Yeah,
So
next phase.
go
Where can
to
people
yeah.
register? Where can they get in touch with you and register and
Yeah.
all that stuff?
So I'm doing it in collaboration with the company called Atlantis Institute. So atlantis.institute/retreat is where you can find a lot of information about that. And if you need to talk more, there's a button there, book a call, and you'll talk to me more about this retreat. I really hope
Now,
to
is there
see
if they
you
wanted to
there.
move forward with your business, the Silicon Valley Executive Academy, is there a way of reaching out to you as well? You can kind of put all that stuff out there as well.
Right, exactly. So, so the best way is find me on LinkedIn, and you can again kind of book a call with me there. But the website for Silicon Valley Executive Academy is svexecutive.academy, and it has all the things that we have for work-life harmony, and actually there are more corporate offers there as well to work with executives and with their teams to make them more productive.
Yes, and all that'll be included in the show notes as well. So the final thing, Victoria, the final thing I do with all my guests, the way I close out the show, is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You are back in your just burnout days, of when you were really burnt out a couple of years ago. You're at a copy machine. The copy machine's not working. You have your colleagues are complaining. Your boss is on you about this deadline. You got to write this. You got to do. I want that version of Victoria to pretend that version of Victoria has come into the Zoom room. I want you to give her some words of encouragement, and we'll officially close.
So the words of encouragement is that you are powerful. You are in control. It is in your power to create the life you love. Everything you need is really you already have.
Amen. You are in control. So much power to heal yourself. This has been amazing. I feel like I can talk to you for hours upon hours. So just keep doing the work you're doing, man. I think we are now connected on LinkedIn. So I am so super excited to be connected with you and continue to keep up with your journey. So keep up the great work. Everyone out there,
Thank
did you have something?
Thank you very much, Aswan. I just wanted to say thank you very much for having me. It was a fantastic conversation.
Yes, my pleasure. My pleasure. Fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.